No, good.
Good. So, good afternoon. On behalf of Dr. Plotter and myself, I'll just open up the meeting. I have a couple of questions, and then I think everybody knows what the agenda is. And again, I should know this, but I don't. Do we need someone to take minutes? Okay, so we're good? Thank you. All right, so that was one of my questions. And then I'll turn it over to the doctor in case he's got anything to say, but I just have a couple of comments that I've been sharing with School Committee Chair Erin Earl, Bob Crenti, and Dr. Plotter. And again, these are just some concerns that I had. These concerns will not be used to be an obstacle. I just felt an obligation to share some concerns. So, and I know not to put him on the spot, but I've had conversations with Adam, because Adam and I have gone through a few RFQs and RFPs over the years, and this one's a little bit different. And I understand that we have some serious time constraints, but at the same time, I just want to be sure that we're not putting ourselves in a situation where we could be open for criticism. So what we do this evening, I'll support, but I just want to mention a couple of things that I mentioned to Bob, Dr. Plotter, and Erin. My concerns were that we had to rush this. And so as a result, the subcommittee, all of us have had limited time to review the submittals. So that concerned me. The submitting companies had 24 hours to put together a team and a presentation together. That concerned me, although I give Bob a lot of credit, he got them all here. So we had 4 applicants and they're all here, so that's right, that's great. Usually, Adam and I had a couple of these, and what we normally do is you put the application out, and I know this is different. You receive the applications, you have a meeting of a group like this, we review the application, determine who we want to bring in for an interview, notify them, give them a week or so to put together a presentation, have them come in, give the presentation, digest that, check their references, check their certifications, then have another meeting, decide who we choose. We're doing that all in tonight, and so I was a little bit concerned. I just think that, you know, we're going to have minutes to digest the interviews and then go forward on a $120 million project. I'm concerned about the companies overlapping each other in the hallway, but again, they're all professionals, so that's happened. I'm sure we're interviewing for jobs. I was concerned about whether we complied with Section 4 of the RFQ, which details the evaluation process, so I just want to make sure we're checking on that. We haven't confirmed that all the submittals have the applicable certifications, and so, but I think we can address that tonight. We haven't checked references, so hopefully we can talk about that. We never, and thanks to Bob, we have a list of standard questions. So what that means is that these are standard questions that everybody will be asked, but there can be extra questions. As long as we've asked each firm the same questions, we can't ask our own questions after that, just to let you know. So again, I just want to repeat, I'm not going to be an obstacle. Just as co-chair, on behalf of all of you, I was concerned about the process. I just want to protect this committee, I want to protect the school committee, I want to protect the town, and I don't know if this is going to be a controversial bond or not, but I want to protect the bond as well, because you know and I know all we need is that one article saying they rushed something through, and all people, after 10, 15 seconds, you lose their attention, and that's all they're going to remember, and now people are going to question the bond. So the way I can tackle this, I talked to Bob, I talked to Dr. Plotter, I know that the school committee wants to address this, and I understand that. The way we can tackle this is a couple of ways. I have a couple of questions I'm going to ask the groups. Basically, and again, this is just to protect ourselves. Did you have adequate time to put together a team and presentation? If they answer yes, they can't say, they can't say that, but, well, you rushed us. Do you have any concerns or questions on our process so far? And the fact that we most likely will send over recommendations to the school committee tonight or sometime next week. Just want to hear them say, no problems at all. Can you verbally confirm that you maintain all applicable certifications? If they say yes, I think we're covered there. Is there anything we should know about any job you perform that helps us with the references? And then anything they'd like to add. So I wrote down these questions, checked with legal counsel. Seems like it's covering us a little bit. And then the question tonight is, when we're all done, is I think we have 2 choices. Choice number 1 is to move forward, talk about this tonight, and send a firm to the school committee. Choice number 2 is we defer action, we schedule a meeting next week. Then over the next week, Bob and I and Dr. Plotter can check references and check whatnot, and then next week we can meet and decide on a firm then. If we do that, my understanding, I guess, is the school committee was concerned that they may not be able to get a question to the council in time for April 24th. Just let you know the conversations I've had today with Council President Mancini, and I think he spoke with School Committee Chair Earl, I'm not sure, is we have a meeting on Friday with Bond Council. We're going to ask them to draft the question. We're going to exclude the amount, and then that gives us we're ahead of schedule, we're gonna send that question to the policy office of the Senate and the House, have them start looking at the question. We're gonna reach out to our Senate and House delegation, let them know that we're gonna be coming to them soon. And then worst case scenario, there's a council meeting on May 8th, so instead of April 24th, we could go to May 8th, and I guess that gives them enough time. So, so we do have options tonight, and that all happened in the last couple of hours. I just wanna let you know, I didn't know if Aaron called you. Greg called me literally around 3 o'clock, because he knew my concerns, but he also knew that tonight I was not gonna be an obstacle. If we're gonna vote on it, we're gonna vote on it. But just, I think everybody should know those concerns. I'll end it there, but just tonight, after they're all done, we should probably discuss this more.
Ralph, can you make sure that when we're in the question process, because part of these questions are those dates and times of making April 24th, maybe you could chime in at when we ask that question and say, we've, since this document was created, these things have changed, just so they don't panic.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, we don't have to do that tonight, we can all talk. I'm very concerned, I'd love to hear from the two school committee members after tonight. You know, after we're done, if they said, it's something, if I'm hearing what you just said, Ralph, maybe we can kick this off till, I don't know when your meeting is after tonight, and then go to the council on May 8th. And if that's the case, we were going to the council on April 24th for our rec center and our public safety complex also. If you decided to go there on May 8th, we're gonna hold back and go with you. So whenever you go, we're going. So we're not gonna jump in front of you. I wanna hear from what the school committee used to do, and we're all gonna be on the same page. I told Greg that, so I committed to Greg that we're scheduled to go on the 24th, but if the school committee says, listen, we need more time, we need to go April 8th, then we're going April 8th. And on Friday, we're gonna talk about all 3 bond questions with bond counsel, because we have to put together the question, get it to the General Assembly, put together financial analysis, show what it does to our debt, show what it does to our tax rate. We were doing all that on Friday, so.
Our May meetings are May 2nd and May 16th. Those are the two. Yeah.
Oh, no, okay, so that would, and what do you have in April?
The 4th and the 18th.
So tonight's the last?
No, the 18th.
The Tuesday after spring break.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so that could be an option too, because if you passed it 18th, you could probably still get it on for the 24th.
Okay.
But again, I'll defer to you, and so whatever you decide tonight, I'm comfortable with. I just had to let the committee know the conversations that have been going around. I didn't want to, we wanted you to know what concerns some of us had. But, yeah, if you're gonna meet on the 18th, because you're just basically approving, so yeah, that wouldn't work. So the 18th, you'd hire this firm, and then they have 2 weeks.
Right, it'd be tonight.
That's right.
No, because tonight would be to the school committee approved, and then we could hire them. But if we wait till the 18th,
And you hire them, then that was still, it's the same time. So if you went to the
Yeah.
council on May 8th, it's the exact same time frame.
okay.
I don't agree, I don't disagree with anything that you said, but I think this was all set up based on the fact that we had to meet the April 24th deadline.
Yes.
That's why we set this up the way we set it up. What we need to consider is, and it's in one of the proposals, they indicated that they would need like 4 weeks to get their work done. So every week that we back up to May 8th, I guess at this point, could be a realistic date. But we would need to make sure we recommend to the school committee at least prior to the 18th, so they can make a decision on the 18th, and then go to the town council on the 8th. But they need time to do their work. That's the part we really don't want to rush, because that's the number we need to get from them to put in the resolution, a number not to exceed whatever that number is. So just take that into consideration. At the end of this process, if you don't feel comfortable that we need to have another meeting, then we'll have another meeting to do that. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with the process, and before we go forward with anything with formal votes. I think if you had an opportunity to look at these people do this every day. They just change the name sometimes. But there's a lot of work that was put into this. One of these pages is 109 pages. He was able to do that in a short period of time. So these people are pros. Let's go through the process. Let's talk about it after. If you're comfortable with it, fine to go forward with it. If you're not, then we'll have another meeting, and we'll go with the different dates. If we can get the extension to May 8th. The only thing we got to consider is give the architects enough time to do their work. That's the key with the dates. So thank you for coming.
We ready to bring Rouse in?
Let's go. Sounds good. Thank you.
You guys want to come this way? I don't know if you brought a computer or not, Jim, but I have stuff set up if you need a computer. Everybody, this is Rouse Architects. Most of you know Jim Partridge. I'll let him introduce the other two folks.
Okay.
So the presentation's really just if we need to bring up an image for a talking point. We don't have like a formal run through it presentation.
I had mine connected to it, so it should come out.
Yeah. Let me see if I not like the. Yes.
Okay, again, my name is Jim Partridge, I'm a project architect with Rouse Architects. And then we got Brittany Grant, excuse me, she's married now, and a child. She's vice president of Rouse Architects. And here's Gene Raymond, he is with Raymond Design Associates. And he's gonna be acting as our consultant during the design process of this project. Rouse Architects would be the point person in me primarily, in terms of all correspondence going to me, and then I would distribute it to my team members. We've got a litany of people that are involved with this project, we got an education planner, University Design, David Stevens. We have Hardcorp, which will deal with site design, traffic design, permitting for whatever we have to deal with relative to where we propose to build. We have DER, which is an MEP fire protection engineer. We also carry O'Day Engineers Construction Engineering Design. We have Diane Soul Associates for landscape design. Coder is our cost estimator for this particular project. And we also are carrying what used to be Geyser, which is now SW Code for geotech engineering requirements.
So we have a wide range of consultants that we can pull from to make sure we meet the needs of your project. So to back up a little bit, we're Rouse Architects. We've been working with the district for over 20 years. We've completed several iterations of the capital improvement plans. Back in, what was it, 2018?
Yeah, started in 2015, and then we actually submitted our first five-year capital plan with RIDE, School Building Authority in 2018. And right now, we are in the process of doing the next stage two in terms of the existing facilities. We've already done an assessment of all of the facilities in this school district. Obviously not new construction, so that's why we're here today to introduce ourselves, and obviously we'd love to be involved with the middle school project moving forward.
So as a firm, we've done new construction recently, full ground up construction. We've done the Met School, the Adelaide High School in Providence. There's a major renovation in the National Elevator Industry Educational Programs Training School, and a new building for Johnson and Wales University. But to that, we don't have the current expertise for the 21st century learning styles.
But a lot of that has to do with the moratorium that was put on, several years ago when, Londo was the governor. So we haven't done new school projects in the last few years until this moratorium was lifted. And so now we're kind of playing catch up relative to getting back involved with that. But we have done, like Ricky said, new construction projects for higher education, like Johnson Wales, we did their science laboratory downtown, John J. Baldwin Center, which is state-of-the-art 21st higher education type school, but obviously K-12. We brought our consultant on here because they've done a lot of schools K-12, and that's what they specialize in.
So we'll be working with Raymond Design Group on this project. Do you want to talk a little bit about Troy?
Sure. We have a firm south of Boston. We do a ton of K-12 work. We've done new elementary, new middle, new high schools, a ton, everything, ad renos, all sorts of things. When we connected with these guys, and they said, oh, it's 180,000 square foot middle school, I was like, oh, good, we're doing one of those right now. Happens to be in a city north of Boston, tight site, it's gonna be 4 stories high, but it gives us some perspective of the size of the building you might have. Obviously, 4 stories may or may not, probably won't be what you wanna do, but we were just very excited to have the opportunity to come down and join another team and really contribute what we know. We've been doing it for over 30 years, and it's pretty much all we do.
So we took a look at your project specifically and kind of how we could incorporate the school onto the Quidnessa site. We worked with RDA to come up with a test fit plan. This takes into account the existing Quidnessa school staying in operation while the new school will be under construction. We worked with Park Corporation, our civil engineer, to kind of identify where the wetlands were, look at the buffer zones, and really think about how we could create this intervention on this site.
I think it's, we have a ton of experience as these guys do. Constructing new while an existing building's underway, and phasing the project, so you move everyone into the new, and then you develop whatever you're gonna do with the old building. Perhaps in this case, it might replace or create some play fields. The issues, there's a lot of issues you'll run into no matter who you're working with. But you're gonna have to think about the scale, how it fits in with the neighborhood. You're gonna have to think about traffic, especially kind of in a neighborhood setting here, which we're well aware of. You'll want to think about community use. Obviously, I'm sure this building has sections that are open after hours, and you always design a building to do that. And then as far as getting into the educational aspects, there's a lot of focus, rightly so, on trying to break these big schools down into smaller learning communities. So whether it ends up looking like this is just one of many options that could be explored. And obviously there's going to be pros and cons, and we also haven't talked to anyone in the district, but for instance, you could have a lower middle school in one wing, 5 and 6. You could have an upper middle school, 7 and 8 in another wing. You could further break those grade levels down into smaller groups, and have that all the core facilities kind of in the middle. But we only do this to show you, and this is just kind of a touch of the graphics we can do as we're looking at different proposals. And every time we come to you with options, we're always putting like an order of magnitude as far as cost goes. One of the unique things about our firm is that we have a senior level person who I've worked with on, 20 years plus, but he was a contractor, and he was project managing schools for a contractor. So we have that ability to do nice design work, but always run it by John, who was part of the proposal, John Bartecki. So we're talking about pros and cons design-wise, educationally wise, but also technically, and how you build it, and potential cost issues, things like that. So again, we didn't have a lot of time to explore a lot nor prepare for the interview, but this just gives you a sense of one of the ways we might explore options with you, and then kind of layer on all those other factors that I was talking about.
So to touch upon our role as, you know, the prime architect and our consultant designer, design architect. So this is in our proposal as well, but kind of a breakdown of the share of the role between the two companies. We want to make sure it's clear, so you're not working with two separate companies and trying to coordinate anything. You would go directly through routes, and we would do all of the coordination work. There would be no burden on the department or district for anything in terms of that coordination. And additionally, so we are submitting the RIDE Stage 2 for the remaining schools in the district. I really think it would be a seamless process to incorporate a new design into our Stage 2 submission. It would be, put the least amount of burden on the district to, again, work on that coordination between other firms.
Because right now, time is of the facto, and we need to get this thing in for September 15th, which is kind of a tall task to do, to start from scratch this late in the game, in addition to all the other stuff that we need to do for the Stage 2. But we've already started that Stage 2 process. They've got a lot of the existing surveys and evaluations completed at this point and priced out. So that's going to take the burden off of us and the district in terms of that particular process that we need to submit as part of the Stage 2.
I just wanted to say that when we approached and started talking about teaming on this, it really fits in well with where we are with our senior staff. We just put a new elementary school out to bid. We're in schematics on this other middle school that I mentioned earlier, but we're used to juggling multiple school projects at once. And knowing that these guys have a head start on the Stage 2, we have all sorts of availability to be down here and to be really concentrating on the educational program and the options for this middle school, while the other pieces of the submission are coming together.
Sorry about it, same tangent at the same time.
You might see more of me than you want.
At this point, you know, our firm kind of motto is that consistent coordination, communication, and schedule are the keys to success. We really do see it as a team operation to work as an architect with a school, the owners, the clients. We are here to work together as a team. We have experience working with construction managers early on, and that only helps speed up the process, helps the project stay on budget, and really helps for a smoother transition to your department occupying the school. I know you had sent us a list of questions, we can go over those. Any other questions?
Ready to roll?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know who I should direct them, I'll just direct them that direction.
Just this corner.
So the district has been given a deadline by the town council for a budget estimate or do not exceed number by the 21st of April 2023. Is your firm prepared to meet this deadline?
24th. 24th.
No.
21.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I am, okay.
Yes.
No, what?
Is it 21st?
Oh, it's 24th, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's been a long day.
3 more
Sorry.
days.
So
On the
answer-
24th.
So the answer to your question, yes, we will be ready to prepare and submit for that deadline relative to the budget estimate.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work with our cost estimator and have a conservative amount, and that always sets a good budget to move forward with the design.
Okay. The district is looking to have conceptuals or schematic designs as soon as possible, but no later than September 1st, 2023, for the tentative school committee meeting on September 5th, 2023, and then September 15th, 2023, RIDE Stage 2 submission. Is your firm prepared to meet this timeline?
Absolutely,
Yes, definitely.
absolutely,
And-
yep.
And it would also help the district if you could get it, if you're gonna do construction management, to get them on early rather than.
So I'm out for an OPM now.
Okay.
Awesome, awesome.
So the district has a deadline of December 31st, 2023 to have this project under contract with a construction manager at risk. I chose that route, construction manager at risk, for obvious reasons. We want to use our own architect.
And also you can put some bid packages out there in the process.
Right.
To kind of expedite things and also deal with long lead items. which
And
are-
so again, is your firm comfortable with moving forward in this direction?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've done a ton of them, see them at risk, and it's, you know, a lot of early packages, a lot of acceleration. And then in our experience, we found, again, getting back to the teamwork thing and communication, you know, we end up a lot of times getting a credit change order at the end, you know, you know, either we're beating the schedule or we're certainly not spending the CM contingency.
And a lot of
We
times
we actually love it.
that kind of savings can be put back towards the project, like for play deals and things of that nature to kind of help the process.
The district will only move forward with this new middle school project if the bond referendum is approved by voters in the November election. Is your firm comfortable with the fact that this may not go to full design and construction after the November timeframe?
It happens, I hope it doesn't happen.
We all hope it doesn't happen. The district will be looking for cost proposals for the first phase of the project immediately following the school committee approval tonight. So if we move forward tonight, we're gonna be looking immediately to get what this first phase proposal is, so we can get on board and get going, okay?
As soon as we're notified, we'll start on it.
Okay. The district is under contract with a firm for RIDE Stage 2 submission. This is a null question for you guys, it's you, so.
I think we like working with each other.
Yeah. So, and then there's a seventh question that came in late in the day today. What are your firm's commitments to net zero energy goals, and whether we can expect this construction to meet these goals?
We can definitely factor that into the options. We're doing an all-electric net zero building right now, the one that's just going out to bid. So it has cost implications, but it has operational cost savings over the next 50 years,
Right.
right?
And then it also helps you in terms of getting your percentage on the reimbursement factor raised up, going that route as well.
Okay.
And there are other avenues that we can also explore as part of that process as well.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a really exciting time, honestly. You know, we're learning all sorts of new stuff, which is.
So those were my questions. I did add the timeline, the blurb at the bottom, and I did put in what we had from Kelia, just so everybody knew what we were up against. And that's all of my questions. I'm gonna defer to Ralph now, the town manager, and he's gonna, a couple of things he'd like to run by.
Thank you. Mine are mostly house cleaning. But, so this evening there's a school committee meeting. Obviously, the possible goal is to choose a firm this evening, so that firm will be notified tomorrow. And then the council meeting is April 24th, so basically that is 25 full days. I mentioned this for a reason. If by some chance we choose, and the school committee chooses not to award this evening, the next school committee meeting will be April 18th. The council meeting after that is May 8th. That would mean that there would be 19 days. I just need to hear from you, is that a significant hurdle going from 25 days to 19 days? Okay,
No, you just do what it takes.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
A couple of house cleaning questions. Did your firm have adequate time to put together a team and a presentation for tonight based on the consolidated timeframe?
Yes.
Excellent. Do you have any concerns or questions on our process so far? The fact that we're most likely sending over a recommendation to the school committee tonight?
It's accelerated, but, you know, time is of the essence, so I realize you have to do what you need to do on the website to get things started.
So no red flags in the process so far?
No, I don't know if you had a chance or even have any of our references.
That's one of my questions.
We really enjoy people talking
Yeah.
to our clients.
That's obviously
Right.
thank you, that's a challenge because, we'd have to call them tonight, so that's okay. But we're gonna talk about that afterwards.
Hopefully they put their cell number down, so we can call them while they're having dinner.
Can you verbally, can you confirm that you maintain all applicable certifications to perform this work, only because we can't check on it, so I need to hear from you that.
Yes, we have all of that.
Is, being that we may have a difficult time making some phone calls, is there anything that you'd like to share with us that we should know about any prior jobs that you performed, that we may find out after the fact?
In terms of.
Something,
negative
I'm gonna
stuff.
leave that to you, really, I hate to do that, but something that we would find out after the fact. Let's say we hired someone this evening, and we did the references over the next 7 days, and it's like, oh wow, we didn't know that. Is there something that, and again, I know it's a tough question, but it has to be asked based on the time frame.
I don't know of anything like that that would be a surprise for you doing the references.
Okay.
I love when people check our references, because I personally, we're a fairly small firm. We really take pride in doing a good job, and a lot of communication and a lot of support for our clients. So we haven't had a bad job.
And then in regards to the process, is there anything that you'd like to add?
We were talking a little bit earlier about, which is gonna be your decision. To me, it seems like with the process, you have someone who's already doing 3/4 of the report. If we can jump in and together do the other quarter of it, you know, every time there's a draft report, you know, you're getting it from a single source as opposed to, I don't know, a draft report from Rouse and a draft report from someone else. And obviously it's self-serving saying that, but I think it's honest. I think it's probably a simpler project. I think you'd get you definitely would get good service and.
Get a better understanding of what we're gonna provide for what you're looking for. You know, it's similar to like when you do parallel cost estimates that the CM would do, and we would have our in-house cost estimator do an estimate independent from one another. And then we meet and kind of just go over all of that, and there may be some misconceptions relative to the understanding, maybe on the CM's part or our part, and then we can just get together, roll up our sleeves and coordinate all of that in a very timely manner to keep the train rolling. And it would be the same thing with the design process.
Again, it's just some house-cleaning questions, so I just thank you, Bob, and I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
I have one.
Yes, Tom?
How many jobs you guys have done together?
0.
But we reached out to David Stevens, who's our educational planner, and he highly recommended RDA. So that's how we made the connection, is through the educational planner.
We connected, you know, you can kind of get a sense from people. I think we both have an appreciation for each other's working style, which I think is probably the most important thing in my book. And I just want to say I'd be very enthusiastic about having the opportunity to work on a school in Rhode Island. We haven't worked down here, so it's kind of a big deal for our company.
And it's a big deal for our company because we want to do more schoolwork, whether it's through this district or other districts. But we know we can do the work, we can do it well. It's just a matter of getting the opportunity to do that work.
And I would
The core
say-
values that we have between the two firms are fairly similar in nature, and I think that's sort of a good point. So the expectations of what they need to do and what we need to do are pretty much there in terms of anticipation.
And I would say that North Kingston definitely holds a sweet spot in Jim's part. He's down here, feels like every week.
Things are hot and heavy, yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah. But I understand the question. To me, I'm just treating it like it's another job, to be honest, and these are the architects on the team, you know, so. And I think Jim clarified at the beginning, I mean, he's your point of contact, you know, so it's, no one's gonna be calling me.
Other than me.
You know?
I want to clarify, I'm not questioning the qualification that
Understood.
two of you working together. I always say that everybody would be or it is qualified. I'm just wanted to
Yeah.
know if you
Oh,
We
makes
both
total
have 30-plus years in this,
Yeah,
so
no problem.
the hair, so is it our first rodeo?
Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you very much, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for the
Yeah.
opportunity, as always.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? How do you, along the process, make sure that you're reaching the energy goals that have been set for the project?
Well, the mechanical engineer will typically, the designs we do are in a 3D computer model, and the mechanical engineer will have a energy model that they'll create during the process. And we can change insulation values, building orientation, all sorts of different factors to hit a energy use intensity that might be your goal. And then at the same time, the cost estimator, has to say, yes, that's probably worth this. But like I say, the thing I've loved when we've done it is, it may be a little more expensive up front, but, every year the district doesn't have to come up with $50,000, for utilities, right? And that's every year. So.
We are obligated to meet the energy code that's been adopted by Rhode Island, which is the ICC 2018 energy code. And they just have the minimum set points in terms of what your values need to be obtained, or efficiency levels for mechanical systems that operate schools have to be all part of that analysis process.
Will you shoot for like an EUI of 20?
Well, we take direction from you all. So I don't know if there's an energy group or a green, design group in town, but, oftentimes we'll coordinate with that group, or maybe it's a school building committee, or maybe none. And maybe we just can come in and show, we could do an EUI of this, and the annual operational cost will be this, and we can do we can just look at different ones and kind of feel you guys out as to what feels right.
And sometimes the local utility companies, like National Grid, which is now Rhode Island Energy, also has programs set aside. If you meet certain goals, you get money back relative to those programs that they offer. It's something to look at, obviously, and evaluate whether it's cost prohibitive or a bonus in terms of following those kind of guidelines.
But it can help you, it can help you when you're going for your public vote, right? Because you have a whole constituency that's their focus. And obviously it's just good for the planet. But I always come back to the district, if you're getting reimbursed from RIDE for spending a little more money up front, that's good. But then every year you guys are spending less, out of the tax base. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
No, their name or maybe the construction
So everybody, this is Scotia Architects. There's a quote here if you want to plug the computer in.
Great.
It should come up right up on the screen. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. We'll get started.
Sure.
Yes, I did. All right, since I got an email.
have time, so just a short presentation. My name is Steve Guglielmo. I'm Principal Architect at Secoshing and Associates.
Kyla Robinson, I'm a project architect at Secoshing and Associates.
And I'm Katie Lillick, I'm a project architect with Arrow Street.
So Secoshing and Arrow Street, as you know, are teaming up for this particular project. We've worked together in the past. We're also working on another project for a proposed middle school for the Met School together, so we've teamed up on that one too. Just to quickly go over the org chart, my partner Mark Secoshio and myself would lead the project. Kyle would be the project manager with staff following. We do have Mike Parolo on our team. He was one of the educational planners who put together your educational plan for the middle school. He worked along with Kelia Kento. So she's with RIDE now, so we do have Mike on our team. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it tonight because he's doing a educational planning session for another district tonight. So other engineers, PM&C, cost estimating, Kevin Atashi for acoustical. So that's basically our team, and we would add consultants as needed. This shows how many districts in the state are around that we've done school work in. You see we've done probably 18 to 20 districts that we've done school work. We're currently working in Jamestown, Narragansett, East Greenwich, Warwick. Next slide. Obviously, we're the architects for the North Kingstown High School. It still looks great, by the way. Doing a great job keeping it up. We're also the architects for, hopefully, when the high schools get passed in Warwick. They're doing 2 new high schools, and we've teamed with another architect in Boston to do those 2 high schools. So it's ready to go to council probably in the next month or 2 to see if they're going to approve us to go forward with the design. It's already been approved by RIDE. This is just a few projects that we've done. This is an addition to the UCAT school in Providence, the middle school that we completed a few years ago. Did North Providence High School, just for scales, about the same size as your school. And we worked with you on that project years ago.
This is an Arrow Street project. This is in south of Boston in a neighborhood called Mattapan. It's a charter high school. This was completed about 3-4 years ago. Conservatory Lab is actually just about a mile from Brook Charter, also a charter school. Same time frame roughly, just opened probably about a year and a half ago. They actually just had an opening recently because of pandemic. They were able to finally have a group meeting there. King Open is in Cambridge. We worked on this with another architect. We did all of the master planning and the facade design. Douglas and Gates just opened. This is in Acton in Massachusetts. This is a similar size to the project that you're anticipating. It's 175,000 square feet.
This is a slide. I know it's an important issue about going to referendum. So what we've done in the past, we do multimedia presentations, we do workshops. We helped the city of Warwick get their referendum going and eventually passed by doing workshops. We did several workshops with parents and community that would come into the schools, and we would set up different booths, different tables, and people could walk around, and one booth would be talking about fiscal, how much it's going to cost the taxpayers and things like that. Another table would have the architectural drawings. Another table we had athletics, fields, and things like that. So we set up all these groups, and people would just walk around the room and ask questions as they came up. So, but we do a lot of presentations. That's basically one of our staff members doing actually one of the meetings right there. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about your project here. We understand from the RFP that it's the Quinnesset Elementary School site. There were some questions whether the existing school was gonna stay, whether it was gonna get knocked down before the new school. So, this is basically what was in the package that we got from Mike. This was the option B, school 5 to 8, middle school. But we're thinking, obviously, the building is sitting on top of the existing school. So what we looked at this, and we kind of just, it would probably work, obviously, best this way here, build a school on the fields, similar to what we did here at the high school. Build a school on the fields, and then knock down the existing school and build the fields where the school is. So that would probably work best. I'm not sure if that's what the final thought was with the town, whether the school was gonna remain open. Because we heard
It is.
two different things. It is gonna
It is.
remain open? Okay, so this would probably, something like this.
And both firms do projects like this. We've worked on active sites where construction and school are going on simultaneously at different levels. So
That's actually how we're proposing the Warwick High Schools to build the new school while the other schools are in session. Build a new school on the fields, knock the old building down, build the fields where that school was. So that way it doesn't interrupt everyday activities of the schools. So that's it. It was a short presentation just to kind of go through a few things. If you could answer any questions or.
So I have the list of questions that I sent over to you guys today. I'll start with those and I'll turn it over to Ralph, the town manager, one of them. So the district has been given a deadline by the town council for a budget estimate or do not exceed number by the 24th of April 2023. Is your firm prepared to meet this deadline?
Well, you're talking just for the
The cost proposals, so what you think the budget for this entire project is? We need a bond number. We need to know what to bring to the bond, and we need to bring it to the town for the 24th of April.
Okay. In your stage one, was there a budget proposed in the stage one that's at this stage right now?
I don't believe there was. I apologize, Mike is not here, he had surgery last week.
Okay.
He did all of that. I don't believe we had a factual number,
Okay.
because we didn't know. But
Okay.
but that's why we're trying to bring on an architecture firm. We need to understand how big does the building need to be. We need to discuss with you how many students there are gonna be, and we know all the right calculations, so
Yep.
we need to figure that out. And I
Yeah.
think that's
And
part
that-
of
and-
why we're.
Yeah, and
we're
it's
going
it's
through
good that we
this
had Mike on our team, the educational planner, who actually was part of this, so he has a lot of the information, so.
Right.
If you're looking for a number, an estimate number, by the 24th of April, I think we can do that, sure.
Okay. The district is looking to have conceptual or schematic designs as soon as possible, but no later than September 1st, 2023, for a tentative school committee meeting on September 5th, 2023, and then a September 15th, 2023 stage 2 submission. Is your firm prepared to meet this timeline?
Yes, we discussed that actually, that before we put the proposal together, because we knew what the timeline was gonna be. So we put our heads together and we all agreed that we can get that done,
Okay.
yes.
The district has a deadline of December 31st, 2023 to have this project under contract with a construction manager at risk. Is your firm comfortable with moving forward in this direction?
Yes, we had the same situation on the Warwick project. And they haven't given us the go-ahead to proceed yet after schematic design. But they're looking at doing a hybrid where you put together a set of documents finished enough through design development to hire a contractor at that point, and then work with the contractor to fine-tune numbers and materials and things like that. At least you have someone on board. It's kind of a hybrid. It's not really a design build, and it's not really a design bid build. It's more of a collaboration between our team and the contractor. So we get him on early enough, he signs the contract, and he can work with us to meet that budget, because they know materials just as well as the estimators do.
Right.
So that's the same approach that we're using there, so I think we can get that same approach down here.
If I could add to that, the three project that we presented here on the screen today, that is exactly the model that we used with Arrow Street. We hire the CM at risk, they come on earlier on. It helps with a constructability review. They review things and say, wait a minute, you might want to think about this slightly differently. It's really helpful to streamline the construction process, sort of vet out any potential problems, bring them on as a partner early.
Okay. The district will only move forward with this new middle school project if the bond referendum is approved by voters in the November election. Is your firm comfortable with the fact that this may not go to full design and construction after the November timeframe?
Yes, we would obviously break out the fee to do the schematic design, and anything beyond that.
Okay.
If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
That goes to my next question. The district will be looking for a cost proposal for the first phase of the project immediately following the school committee approvals, potentially tonight. And is your firm comfortable with that time frame of getting us a contract immediately,
How long?
or a proposal? So
How long would we have to fine tune the numbers to get you something?
I'm saying considerable, like, I'm not saying tomorrow, but
Right.
reasonable time frame.
Within a couple of weeks, I think we can have all of our consultants, right now, we put quals together,
Yeah,
but until it's a project, we can't ask for prices from them.
so that, the only thing that would
Get that done
affect is that the 24th number going to town council, right?
Yes.
That, so.
Yeah, no, by the 24th, definitely, yes.
No, but I mean, I would need that budget number by then, so you'd be working without a contract and putting those numbers together, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's it, so I just wanna make sure we're clear on that, because I was hoping to have a proposal in the next bit of time, 10 days, whatever it is, and then get that number together so we can propose it to town council.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can probably get that done within a week.
Okay.
The numbers from the engineer, sure.
The district is under contract with a firm for Ride Stage 2 submission. Is your firm comfortable with working in conjunction with another firm?
Yes, yeah, we do it all the time.
And then I sent out questions, I added a seventh question that came to me from a member. What are the firm's commitments to net zero energy goals, and whether we can expect construction to meet these goals?
Did you want, is it a net zero building?
Well, we've never had the discussion until today.
Okay.
This is the first time someone brought the comment to me or the question to me, so it's getting asked to everybody tonight.
So
Okay, yeah, no,
both firms working on it, I know
Yep.
Arrow Street has net zero schools, we're working on a net zero education center currently at the zoo, right on the Park Zoo, so both firms are.
The King Open School that you saw the slide of, it is net zero. The Douglas and Gates, the one that's in Acton, it is energy and water. They're aspirational towards waste, so it's net zero times 3, with the third being asterisks
Right.
of their operational waste.
Is Warwick doing anything net zero?
no, it just adds too much cost to the project, yeah.
And that's the end of the questions, and again, I added a timeline and that little picture of the conceptual that Keely did. Thank you guys very much. Ralph's gonna take over from here, and he has some house cleaning questions for you.
Yeah, my questions are pretty much house cleaning, so, just to get us ready for the next stage, because as you can see, we're on a tight time frame. So, and I can hear the concern of the time frame, and please know that, I think to a person, we all agree that we pretty much put this into a pretty tight time frame. As a result, I have to throw something else at you, and I just need your honest opinion on it. So, what Bob had just mentioned, the time frame, basically, if the school committee voted to present this to a firm this evening, they would call that firm tomorrow, and then we want a number for April 24th. That's 25 days. If they didn't choose a firm this evening, then the next school committee meeting is April 18th. The next council meeting after the 24th is May 8th. That would shrink the 25 days to 19 days. Does that concern you? I'm referring to you providing the town/school department with a number for the bond not to exceed. So we're looking for a number, do the voters want to approve a new middle school in the amount not to exceed, and we're looking for you to fill in that blank.
Yep. No, we can get that done, sure.
Okay.
Because we work very closely with our estimators.
Okay.
We have 2 or 3 estimators that I can just call and then they'll work on it right away for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
understanding the time constraints we've all been under, do you feel that you had adequate time to put together a team and a presentation for tonight? Did you have adequate time to do this?
Did we have adequate time?
Yes.
It was a little stressful today, but, it was tight, but, you know, usually we get 2 or 3 weeks to
Yep.
put something together, but, we pulled it together.
Okay.
You didn't have an issue.
Understanding that we may provide a recommendation to the school committee this evening, do you have any concerns or questions on our process so far?
Not that I can do.
Okay.
Not so far.
Again, these are more house cleaning, I just
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
know, you know, if you, I need to know if there's a red flag out there, so just
Yeah.
trying to cover ourselves here.
And everything, everything gets approved by the building committee, then it goes to the school committee?
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right, so the building committee will give a recommendation to the school committee is the final say.
Okay.
Obviously, if we do choose a firm this evening, and I think the school committee meeting's at 7 o'clock, that wouldn't give us ample time to check on all your certifications. So, I just need to, we need to, you to verbally confirm that you have maintained all applicable certifications.
Absolutely, yes.
And same thing, we really can't check on your references until after the fact. So we wouldn't want to choose a firm this evening and then on Friday get a surprise. So is there anything about a prior job that you'd like to give us a heads up on?
No.
Not really, I mean, we worked with you, we worked with
Yep.
Bob,
Yep.
I mean, we worked in North Kingstown, so I don't have any, you know, there's no skeleton in our closet, if that's what you're asking.
Excellent. Yeah, just trying, you know, with the tight time frame, we would be able to cover these things, so
Right.
just going on your word tonight, so just, you know, trying to figure that out. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Basically, you guys do the front work and everything, all, the architects do all the work, then who hires the contractor? You or us, or, that,
So we would hire the contractor.
we would hire the contractor after?
Yeah.
With our OPM.
Yes.
Okay.
They would prepare, yes, with the bid specs and whatnot, and
Okay.
actually, the school department, I believe, hires the contractor.
Right, with,
With
in
the-
conjunction with our OPM, our
Yes.
owner's project manager.
Exactly.
Do you have an OPM?
I'm in the process,
Okay.
another fast-paced.
Yeah.
You can squeeze that in today, Jim?
Right after us, right?
So,
I know you've addressed the net zero question a little bit. From everything I hear, and I'm not an architect or a builder, net zero building is more expensive than a building that does not. Would you be prepared to submit an estimate for what it would cost with net zero, and then also a building that would be net zero ready, but not necessarily?
We
all
could
in?
probably give you a percentage
Okay.
increase to do net zero.
Okay.
If I could add to that, Air Street has done similar studies. We have an in-house sustainability director, and she's done similar comparisons for other schools. Lots of people are asking the same question. They want to know, what should I expect? You know, is there a benefit for energy versus water? And she has some big broad numbers, mechanical systems, things like that, that we could offer for consideration. You know, you could decide if you want to do one net zero or more than one, based on mechanical systems are a big one. We could offer some metrics for you to consider.
Okay. Thank you.
Time's up.
You guys said that you have worked together before. How many projects you have done together?
Well, we're working right now on another project for the Met School in Providence.
But
It's
that
a-
would be
it's a
the
middle
first project that you guys have done together.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. But my partner has known one of the principals there for years. They're friendly, they used to do evaluations at different colleges for accreditation visits together, so they've known each other for years.
anybody else?
When you say you've done some net zero schools, are they totally net zero, or are they net zero ready?
The one that I was referring to in Acton is net zero energy and water, so they are net zero on those two aspects. The third is waste, which they are trying to achieve, but it becomes an operational question, so it is more of an aspirational goal. But that particular project is net zero in water and in energy. So there's a water reclamation system, it has a geothermal system for the heating. They have a third party that has, that's leasing the PV. There's an extensive PV array that's going to be installed on the roof and over a parking structure. So they've done a lot of calculations with the engineers from that company. There's a massive battery that sits out on the site that's collecting the energy, puts it back into the grid. So all of that is achievable. It's the metric to decide, but it is fully net zero on those two aspects.
And how big is that school?
It is roughly the same, it's 175,000 square feet. I read that you are looking for 180, so it is roughly the same size. Yeah, and it is also 2 schools combined. It's an elementary school, but they were 2 different schools that wanted to basically inhabit that same building, partly for the net zero aspect of it. So we worked with them to find a solution that worked for them. They're actually on 2 different levels of the school, but there are a lot of ways you could solve that.
So we've also, along those lines, Jamestown hopefully is turning their solar array on today. And we got them to almost 90% of their electrical use. And that's after the fact, so it's definitely achievable.
It feels like it's a little of, it's part in the engineering and making sure that you're choosing the things that will be the lower use and looking at the EUI of the building. And then there's also working with a provider for something like a PV system, which is not directly part of the project, but we factor that in for how we design it, make sure that they have the electrical connections and the surface area that they need for the PV, things like that.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you guys very much. We appreciate you coming.
All right, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, very nice to meet you.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Good to see you, Steve.
Hey, everybody.
Everybody, this is Perkins Eastman. This is Joe Costa. I'll let Joe introduce his team. There's an HDMI cord here if you want to connect to the big screen, and I'll let you take over from there, Joe.
Thank you very much. Just give me a minute to connect, and then we'll get started.
The school, like the teacher,
agencies. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm somewhat short notice, but we're always ready to talk to a potential client. Thanks for inviting us here tonight. In case you don't know, Perkins Eastman, we're a full-service architectural firm, really specializing in K-12 education design. We're known for design excellence and thought leadership, and we're also known for sustainable architecture, including designing net zero schools, which you probably heard a lot about tonight. We've done a lot of schools. We've done about $3 billion worth of schools in the last 15 years, and about 15 of those were middle schools. So we know a lot about middle schools and how to design them. We have a wide range of projects. No two projects are the same. We don't have a set style. Really, our architecture is reflective of the community, the context, and the curriculum that's actually taught at the buildings. We really are reflective of your thinking in your towns. I brought with me really the core team. We couldn't gather more people in time, but you're going to see a lot more people once we get started work. I do want to introduce the team. I have with me Tina Greco, project manager, also an architect. Over at the other end is Mike Berger, design principal, and talk a little bit about some of the thoughts that we had about your job. And Rob Santos, who's your project architect. Bob Bell couldn't be here tonight. He's actually talking about programming with another community, so a little ways from here. And we also have Toronto Architects, who also couldn't be here. Luke is a local architect, actually a RIDE expert. He's done 23 stage 2 RIDE submissions, so he's one of the foremost experts in getting those things passed. So couldn't be here either. At this point, I want to ask Tina to present. And by the way, this is a picture of Tina many years ago.
Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So, and you're gonna advance?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So project understanding. So we've been through your RFP, and right here are just highlighted, the big picture items. I do want to start by saying that Joe touched on it. You'll hear it throughout the presentation that we start with that lens of sustainability and thought about net zero energy. But you're looking for a new school building for grades 5 through 8. It's approximately 1,200 students, as we understand. It's the building size right now is estimated. It obviously has to be confirmed, and we have to go over all this with you. But 180,000 square feet. It's at the current elementary school site. The budget is to be determined. We would work with you to set that. And we understand that you have a 35% base eligibility rate, and that there are the criteria that we would help and make sure that we shepherd that through so that you can reach your maximum 52.5%. And then we'd also look for any other opportunities to, raise that any higher. So a couple of things. We also got Bob's email on our way here. So we looked at some of those dates, those milestone dates. The first one in setting what the project total budget would be. And we know that you're looking for April 24th, as I understand, and that's fine, we would make that. Then that next date that we have listed here is September 15th for the RIDE submission, but we know that you want to have a meeting, which we'd certainly be meeting with you throughout, but at the beginning of September. We would certainly be able to meet that. And then you have the referendum, which we're anticipating, I guess it's the Tuesday, the voting Tuesday, the first Tuesday in November. And that is something actually we're very strong at. So we would support you through that process. We've been involved with successful referendum, and we can sort of get everybody on that train to understand the project, wrap their head around it, and get it passed. And then finally, again, going back to that goal of 52.5%, we know that you need to get that CM on board for the end of the year. And that's not an issue at all. And then the next step is the RIDE 3 submission and process. And with that, I'm gonna introduce Robert.
Hi everyone. I am not normally a programmer, but I'm going to give it my best shot today. So basically what happens in the programming phase with you guys is we have collaborative imagining, visioning sessions where we have school administrators, educators, community groups, community leaders, and most importantly parents and students involved in getting their ideas and moving them together into a way that we can move forward with the design, you know, getting those answers, getting those ideas together on paper and starting to draw and starting to have fun with it. In this particular project, we have a kind of unusual situation where we have a middle school 6 to 8 contingent plus grade 5. So we do understand that all students have a kind of a developmental trajectory, and there is some difference between grade 5 and grade 8, you know, so this is something that will form and really lay the basis and groundwork for our programming. Just as an example of how these programs can differ with developmental stages. Here we have traditional classroom cluster. We may all have been educated in something like this when we were kids. It's essentially an educational program happens within the walls of the classroom. Here you're seeing in these red boxes how this can kind of open up and start seeing some collaboration and some kind of space for students to actually interact. Here we have, perhaps for the grade 5 kids, red project areas where you have independent work and teamwork happening in between classrooms, two independent classrooms. But then as you move forward and to the upper grades, you'll have alcove project areas perhaps, where multiple classrooms can come together on a focus point, kind of a team experience. And you take that corridor circulation space that was just a dead corridor, useless really during the day, and you know, at the higher levels, it can become something where the kids are really coming together and working together in an educational goal. So here you see that final plan rotated here in this image, unfortunately, but the flexible project-based learning area in what used to be just a corridor. And essentially the classrooms and corridor space, it's all the same square footage, but you're taking that square footage in the middle of that space and you're efficiently using it for learning and program right now. So this is one of the things that we could, you know, bring forward in spaces.
Cool. Here's the fun part of our presentation. Everyone. So every project, we like to put the 3 kind of guiding principle words that we utilize, and you'll see these come up during the programming phase, during the design phase. Hopefully these are words that you hear at the end of the project when the school is being used. Space should be inspirational. You know, you have some great spaces in the school as well. I'm sure that was a main theme. Comfort, you know, thermal comfort, you know, the sound of the mechanical system, security, so that level of comfort. And adaptability. We're designing now, but who knows what technology is going to be 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the line. So how do we design a space now that can plan and fluctuate and adapt to different teaching modalities? So we were relieved when we got Bob's email today and saw submission 1 that we were looking at the right site. We heard it was a wooded site with 28 acres. So it looks like a fantastic site. Obviously, we have not been out there yet. 28 acres, you know, the existing school is nestled on the east side of the site. You know, residential houses around the east and south. There's a couple really nice ones up on the north here. Looks like a little bit of wetlands tucks in. There's Mill Creek. You know, we'd be curious to see, you know, what that looks like, and if that's you know, a challenge or an opportunity or both. So if you click it again, Joe, and that's kind of illustrating how we work and how we go about, you know, exploring some opportunities in your phase 2. So at first blush, you know, with the understanding that this will be a fully occupied school, students, community, parents, teachers will be accessing this almost 24/7. You know, night games, meetings, weekends. So locating a new school of around 180,000 square foot school, middle school, on this portion of the site seems to make a lot of sense, and you'll see in another moment. Talked about some opportunities, and not just here, but throughout the site. Seems like a fantastic, you know, outdoors natural space for a middle school. Obviously staying away from the wetlands. And then this green line is just illustrating that, you know, we'll be very sensitive to the neighbors and to the adjacent community to maintain that buffer that's there now. We don't want to, you know, diminish the property value or the quality of life around the community. And also it appears that there's just kind of one entrance road. As we observed, it looks like these are all privately owned lots, even on the north. So Mark Drive would be your access into the school. So during phase construction, this is something that we do all the time. Building a new school on an existing property while it's being occupied. So safety comes first. Obviously, we'll work with the construction manager, you know, the faculty, administration at the school. But very simple. I think there's some really nice opportunities to create a really clear delineation wherever this line is. But as contractors enter the site, they immediately peel off and enter their realm. They don't travel deep into the site and mix with the students and the parents and the faculty that are utilizing the school. And if it's farther away from the existing school, the distractions are minimized. right, for the first phase. Once the school is built, students occupy the school, this is renovated, and the rest of the site is developed for the fields, parking, and outdoor learning opportunities. So this is a sketch that you guys saw, I think yesterday, that we put in the book. We kind of zoomed in a little bit closer. And we'll take a closer look at the components of the school, but what this footprint represents is about 180,000 square feet. This is all to scale on your site, and approximately 2/3 of the school program is on the ground level, because it includes your cafeteria, your gym, your auditorium, those big spaces that want to be on the ground level. So this is about 2/3 of your program on this floor. The number of wings can be determined as we flesh it out. But the idea would be to come to the site, enter the site, and you have clear separation between bus drop-off and then parent drop-off here. Whether you're dropped off by bus or by parent, there's parking lots here. All the students come to one collective point, enter one front door, administration right at the front, so they see everyone. They can talk about security and arrival sequence. So, really good planning, having your front door administration right up front. Then you have your large box spaces, your gym, your auditorium, your caf, all your noisy spaces, closest to your parking lot, closer to the louder portion of the site, and directly adjacent to all the fields. And actually right at the center of the site as well. On this side of the line, which we're calling Main Street, you'll see there are your academic neighborhoods. This is your grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. And Rob mentioned, 5th grade is unique. You don't often see it grouped into a middle school. 5th grade is more often associated with the elementary school, where students really don't leave their classroom much except for specials. And 6th grade is often the transitional grade. So we'll have to take a look at where do we locate 5th grade, where do we locate 6th grade in the school, right? Outdoor learning opportunities abound throughout the site. Great opportunities for solar orientation, for baseball, softball, multi-purpose field. And we should mention the site lends itself really, really nicely to, north is generally up this direction. You really want to locate academic classrooms, so you're either facing south or north. You don't want to skew it too often, so you can really control that natural light throughout the day. Instead of pulling blinds up and down throughout the day, you can really control the solar orientation. It makes the building perform incredibly better if you have the opportunity to do that. The site, obviously lends itself really nicely to that. So we're going to look at the guts, the inside of the school and see how it works. Rob was talking about, that flexible learning and those breakout spaces. So this is taking a look at one of those, an academic neighborhood, which we like to call them, right? So distilling the program into patterns. The difference between 5th grade, typically, like I said, students might look a little different than a middle school classroom. So that's something we'll have to dig into during the programming phase. But an academic neighborhood typically will include your typical classrooms, faculty space, science rooms, prep spaces, restrooms, and flexible learning spaces, really self-contained school. And then the students travel outside of their neighborhood into Main Street, the main corridor, and then to your larger spaces, your gym, your cafeteria and gymnasium. Look at the engine. Orientation, just as I mentioned. So orientating the wings, in general, most of it is really the academic classrooms. Those are the classrooms you're gonna have, 30 or 40 of these spaces. These are where, most of the bulk of the education is happening in the space. It needs to be comfort, temperature-wise, heat gain, glare, so getting that right is critical. So this is, maybe we'll spend a second on this. So this is that diagram, and this is all to scale and components. And obviously all these pieces have to be, if they figure out how many classrooms, how big the auditorium, how big the gymnasium is. But we're talking about the front door, entering into a single point. This is what we're calling Main Street. So this space right here is, a really nice corridor like you have right across the way. And on one side, you have your gym, your auditorium, cafeteria, restrooms, music. Where does music want to go? Most likely they want to have some relationship with the stage. Maybe it's used as a green room, for performances. Students can gather in the music room, go across the hall and access the stage in the back. So that, this sequence works really nicely. And then you have your celebrated spaces, your STEM or STEAM, your hands-on maker spaces. Maybe your learning commons, a space that's used often by the community, right at the front door, and kind of anchoring each of these academic neighborhoods. We're showing 3, maybe it's 2, maybe it's two stories, maybe it's 4 wings. That's something we'll have to look at. Maybe there's a courtyard. Then that flexible learning space. Each of these academic neighborhoods has their own kind of town center, within that scale. So the scale really breaks down from larger scale, multi-use space to the neighborhoods, and then they have their own little localized neighborhood, and then possibility for connections to the outdoors. Click it again, Joe. And then that's really, it really distills the idea of this party diagram where you have this academic zone, this community kind of noisy space, and this really becomes the buffer, the acoustic buffer between these spaces and then the quieter part of the site. Go through one more time. Then security, right? So this diagram works really, really well for, you know, the use of the gym in the evenings, weekends. You can easily lock down these academic wings, and you essentially have a community center, so no one's wandering down into these academic neighborhoods. It works really well. Talked about administration, you know, eyes on anyone entering the site. You know, as they enter from that one entrance, either via by bus, parent, or walkers, everyone comes at one point. And then within these academic neighborhoods, you know, this other teal box, that's faculty space that we're looking at in the diagram that Rob was talking about. Where are these located within these academic neighborhoods for another level of security and observation?
Thank you, Mike, very nice. Tina, can you talk a little bit about that? And
Okay.
Wrap it up, we're coming to the end of our time.
Oh, great, okay, so, this slide just lists a couple of points about, budgeting. It's always on our concern, you know, on our radar. We're constantly thinking about it, we're constantly working towards it, we're always thinking about keeping ourselves in check in terms of the design and making sure that the design is economical to the budget. Mike just even talked about that idea of a green room, that is the music room during the day, but potentially the green room for the stage. So that's just that constant look at how we can better utilize space and how those kind of economical views can be employed on every part of the project. So the other thing that we're doing is, of course, we'll have an estimator on our team, but we in-house also have quite a bit of information that we are constantly looking at and comparing to the estimator. So we're looking at it that way as well, and keeping our tabs on it that way. We have a really good success track record. When we're involved with setting the budget, we stay within 1% of that budget. And finally, we've never missed a project opening date. So in terms of budget and schedule, those are two things, as project manager, I'm constantly looking at those things. So we just start highlighting those.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. That pretty much wraps up our presentation, so just want to say a few words about why selecting Perkins Eastman. So we do have a lot of regional and local experience, so we bring that to the table, and we can certainly work with your community to create a school that's specifically for your community. We are a quality school design firm. We've won dozens of awards for our schools. It's not the reason why we do schools, but we do win them quite a bit, and we're very proud of the work we do, and we get a lot of positive feedback from our clients, understanding that the end result is beyond their expectations, which is what we like. We are also sustainable school experts, including having designed and completed several net zero schools, which means that your energy bill is zero, which is going to pay dividends for a very, very long time. And we know that RIDE is very interested in net zero project, and we've done a few, and we're good at doing those. CMTA, our mechanical engineer, are nationally recognized for net zero schools. We're pretty good for communication. We do like talking about our projects. We do like talking to a wide variety of your community. We'll answer any question. We'll stay as long as necessary and make sure that everybody is heard and a proper answer is given. And we do have a lot of RIDE stage 2, and we know there's a very short period of time. We are a large firm with a lot of horsepower, a lot of expertise that we can bring to bear to your community, and we're certainly ready to do that. We just finished 8 projects over the last 14 months or so, and so we have a large team ready to jump on your project, and I'd like to assign those folks to your job. And we're easy and flexible to work with. We don't know it all, and we always learn from our clients, and we always practice to do better, and we continue to improve the services that we give, and we're motivated to succeed. This community is a new community for us. We have not provided services or designed a school for you. We'd love to do your next middle school. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions and answers.
So I have my questions I need to run through quick.
Yeah, but I think I know the answers already.
I figured, you touched on them already.
Yeah.
All right, so the district has been given a deadline by the town council for the budget estimate or do not exceed number by the 24th of April 2023. Is your firm prepared to meet this deadline?
The answer is yes. In fact, we have lots and lots of tools that we use to predict the cost of jobs.
One of the key ingredients, of course, will be the number of students, the approximate size of your building, the approximate size of the elementary school that we're gonna be taking down. Those are sort of key pieces of information that we're gonna need in order to create that number. So we'll be able to do that very quickly with our internal database as well as with our cost estimate, no problem whatsoever.
Okay. The district is looking to have a conceptual or schematic design as soon as possible, but no later than September 1st, 2023, for a tentative school committee meeting on September 5th, 2023, and then September 15th, 2023, RIDE Stage 2 submission. Is your firm prepared to meet this timeline?
We are, and as you can see in the short period of time that we had to prepare for this interview, hey, Mike and his team have done a marvelous job, just, sort of thinking and coming up with some quick ideas, so no issue whatsoever with that.
The district has a deadline of December 31st, 2023 to have this project under contract with a construction manager at risk. Is your firm comfortable with moving forward in this direction?
We are.
The district will only move forward with the new middle school project if the bond referendum is approved by voters in the November election. Is your firm comfortable with the fact that this may not go to full design and construction after the November timeframe?
We are, but we're hoping to get you across the finish line, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that the voters come out and vote.
Yep.
The district will be looking for a cost proposal for the first phase of the project immediately following the school committee meeting approvals, which is tonight. So this is, again, very fast tracked. We may go to them tonight and say, we recommend this company, so. Sorry, is your firm prepared to produce this proposal in a timely manner?
Yeah, Bob, as long as we know what we're including and not including, as long as you're clear on that, we can come up with the proposal fairly quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
The district is under contract with a firm for the RIDE Stage 2 submission. Is your firm comfortable with working in conjunction with another firm?
We have worked with other firms. We'd like to know more about what the services are that you've contracted and how we could split our services so that, our proposal is properly prepared. Yeah, we've worked with many owners, consultants in the past, and we're ready to work with whoever you've got.
Okay, and there's a seventh question that wasn't on the document I sent over to you all. It came in after I made the document and sent it out. What are your firm's commitments to net zero energy? And I know you've already talked about this, but I have to ask it. Energy goals, and whether we can expect this construction to meet these goals. So.
Well, the answer is yes, and as I mentioned, CMTA is the prominent national and regional expert in net zero, and we're going to approach this project as if it's a net zero, and we'll show you, what has to happen with the design, with the operation, kitchen equipment, things like that, the exterior envelope, to make sure that either it's going to be a net zero or a net zero ready school. And of course, we're always trying to decarbonize our schools. That's a big concern of the firm, and big concern for our society and our future.
Okay. That's my question. I'm going to turn it over to Ralph. He's the town manager. He's going to have a few house cleaning questions for you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, just some house cleaning questions based on obviously the tight time frame. So Bob had mentioned the fact that tonight we may present a recommendation to the school committee. So that means they call someone tomorrow, and we need a number for the April 24th town council meeting. So that's a span of 25 days. If by some chance we didn't present a firm to the committee tonight, then the committee we presented it on April 18th, which would then mean our next town council meeting is May 8th. That 25 days then gets shrunk to 19 days. Do you have concerns over presenting a budget figure within 19 days as compared to 25?
We don't. I mean, just to understand, it would be a not to exceed number, is my understanding, right?
That is correct.
It can't go up, but it can go down, so we might be a little bit more conservative with, contingencies and escalation and all that stuff, but we really don't have that much of an issue. We do have a really deep database, so we can plug in some very key numbers and come up with that number. Now, of course, the other question that we're gonna be asking is there a number that the town has in mind? In other words, what we don't wanna do is, put a huge number out there that can never be approved. If there's a number that you guys have that is as much as the public and the community will support, we're gonna wanna hear that number and then make adjustments accordingly. But we don't have an issue with that at all.
So I'm gonna expand briefly from the house cleaning, but it's a comment, so you don't have to comment back, but I guess something you just said kind of triggered it. It is a not to exceed number. And I'm concerned now that this tight time frame is going to make a professional firm such as yours be extra conservative. The downside to that, of course, is that the higher the number, the less chance for success.
Yeah.
So, and again, I'm telling you something you already know, but this tight time frame, I hope it doesn't hurt us. And again, it's nothing you just said, but you made a great point. You made a
Well,
great point.
what's interesting, Rob, is, the number is gonna go in the end of April, a few weeks from here.
Yeah.
But between now and September, that number is gonna be greatly refined, based on programming, based on design concept, based on estimating. The community is gonna go referendum to the real number, not to exceed number, correct?
I'd have to, so I'm meeting with bond counsel on Friday,
Yeah.
and I've done a few of these, and I hope you're right. I hope that what you just said is, if we could do. I'm concerned because I think once we present a not to exceed number, we then go to the General Assembly for enabling legislation. You may be right. If they give us enabling legislation up to, then maybe we can. That's a great question. I have to check that. You just added a question on Friday.
The state's not gonna be upset if you ask for less money,
Yeah.
right?
No, I guess my point is that if the General Assembly approves the question, can we revise the question? And that's a great question. I'll ask that on Friday. Thank you.
I've never seen a state say, here, we're
Yeah.
gonna give you more money.
Yep, no, I'm more concerned with the question.
Yeah.
I know you're right, we'll get the money, I'm more concerned with the voters, it's a good point I have to make up on it, check on Friday, so thank you. Did you have an adequate time to put together a team and a presentation for tonight?
We could have used a little bit more time. But, we're pretty nimble, and as you can see, we've done this a few times, right? So, we're pretty good at that, and that's one of the strengths of the firm, is that we have a deep bench. We have a lot of expertise that we can rely on, both in the regional offices as well as outside the regional offices. So that's really a strength of the firm. That's what we really like doing.
We've explained our process, what you've been subject to our process, our expedited process to date, and we've explained the future of the expedited process. Do you have any concerns or questions on our process so far?
We don't. The part that's gonna take a little time is the community outreach. And, some communities love having a broad spectrum of participants. Some are much more narrow. We don't know exactly what your community's gonna have. If you wanna open it up to a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, those can take a little bit more time. If it's a narrow decision-making group, then the process is gonna move faster. So that's the sort of thing that you guys have to think about as you're thinking about how you're gonna present this to the community, how you're gonna, get the answers, how you're gonna make this project unique to, your town.
Because if we do submit a firm to the school committee this evening, we won't have time to check on certifications. So I just need you to verbally confirm that you have maintained all applicable certifications to perform this work.
We have,
Okay.
and I'm a licensed Rhode Island architect as well.
And same thing with the fact that I don't see us getting on the phone from 6:30 to 7 and calling your references. Again, simple question is there, assuming we choose a firm this evening, we choose you this evening, and then we start checking on your references, is there anything about any jobs you performed in the past that you'd like to share with us this evening?
No, I don't. We have a very strong track record, and we'd love to show you some of our other jobs. I have no concerns with you calling anybody on that list, honestly.
And again, the house cleaning, obviously, the idea of the house cleaning questions is, there's just certain things we can't do before 7 o'clock, so I just wanted to get those out there. Great, thank you.
This was due at 11 yesterday, just.
Is that-
It was at 11 o'clock yesterday.
You had more time than I thought.
It wasn't a lot of time.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
You guys are from New York, basically, and you have an office in Providence and one in Boston.
We do.
The personnel in Providence, how do you guys work out? I mean, I know that today it's not too hard to communicate.
Right.
I'm the guy in Providence.
So your project architect, the guy with the boots on the ground, is our local person. But as you suggested, with connections, it's very easy to work. We can get here at a moment's notice. We do travel, we do projects all around the world. This is very local to us, so.
And we're actually in the Stanford office.
Yeah.
Mike, myself, and Joe
Yeah.
understand.
We also have a Boston office with a lot of K-12 school experience. And we're actually growing our Providence office. So there's others.
Just out of curiosity, what is the function actually of Torado?
Oh,
I know the firm.
yeah, Louis, as part of the team, he's gonna help us with the RIDE Stage 2 submissions. So he's done, I think, 23 of them. So he's going to sort of, get us through that process much quicker. Now, we have our own Stage 2 experience, not as many as Torado. So he's gonna help us in that regard. And by the way, we do have some very strong relationships with leadership at RIDE as well. Dr. De Silva actually is an old friend of ours, who we've known for not just a few years, but actually for decades. So we've watched Dr. De Silva's, career change from an architect like the rest of us to, administrator at that.
I joined those in 1992.
Actually, Dr. De Silva used to work with Bob Bell. They were actually sitting together in a firm a few years ago.
Mount Vernon, probably.
Mount Vernon, or one of those firms. Joe Collada also is another one of that Mount Vernon group, another one of our project architects. It's a small world.
Anybody else?
Mr.
This-
Bill?
Go ahead.
No, you sure?
Yeah.
Your sustainability expert, Heather, I don't wanna take a stab at
Georgia,
it.
yes, our in-house lady. Yeah.
Where is she based?
She's out of Washington.
Okay.
She serves the entire enterprise, and if necessary, she'll travel up here, and she does a terrific job explaining sustainability and positives and all the sort of challenges associated with sustainability. She is really a foremost expert in that field, besides our technical guys, which are CMTA. So those two, work together on many net zero schools.
The team organization page that you have, page 19 in your brochure, most of you are here. Am I to understand, and forgive me if I didn't catch this right, this is the team? These are the
Yes.
people who you intend to, okay.
Yeah, this is not the sales team.
Right,
This
okay.
this is the team that you're gonna be seeing that's gonna be doing the job. We don't do a bait and switch or anything like that, so.
I didn't mean to suggest that, I just meant, I wanna make sure that I understood what you were presenting.
Right, and with the exception of Bob, who couldn't be here, you'll also see him a lot, as well as Heather.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're the actual team.
All right.
Yep, and there'll be more. I mean, this is the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, it's a much bigger team.
I don't wanna be flippant, but somebody must have stayed up all night to put this together so fast.
There wasn't a lot of sleep. Wasn't a lot of sleep. I mean, we sort of thought about it, prior to the submission, sort of, had some ideas, but once we got, Bob's email yesterday, thanks, Bob, we quickly rallied and we brought some forces and we were able to put this together very quickly. And there's some reoccurring themes that, we've addressed with many other schools.
It's pretty clear this isn't your first rodeo.
So, I hope it's not my last.
I have sort of a hypothetical question. The design that you had up there, which
Yeah.
I think was from the master plan for the middle school, yeah.
Yeah.
If you were just designing this on your own for a net zero school,
Yeah.
would you take a different approach?
No, we wouldn't, actually. So net zero, balancing energy produced on site versus energy inside. Well, one of the biggest concerns about that is the actual skin of the building and how much infiltration losses we have, right? So that's a big contributor. So our team spends a lot of time working on how the exterior envelope is produced. And what we'll do is we'll actually require the contractors to mock up a section of the wall so that we can see how many penetrations they have and how they actually build it, such to reduce the number of penetrations. That's a big factor. The second one, believe it or not, is the kitchen. So your menu and what food you serve and what kind of equipment that you have in your kitchen plays a huge role in the amount of energy that's required to be brought into the building, all that air conditioned and then ejected out of the building. So your kitchen menu will also have an important role
in your net zero capacity. The other component is how we generate energy on the site. Well, there's a large roof area, so you're gonna have PVs. And the other component, of course, most likely you're gonna have geothermal wells. And the advantage of the site is that you've got a lot of acreage. Oftentimes, we're having to put wells very close to the building, or in some cases even below the building, which we really don't like. But your advantage of your site is that you have acres of space where you can put the well in advance of the rest of the building and get that system in place. So it's a whole spectrum and a whole family of strategies that we'll explain and get you to net zero. But you got a great site, you got great land, good orientation. All those factors really play in your ability to hit net zero.
And if the school committee came to you with a particular EUI, would you?
Yeah, well, net zero, they want to be below 25, right? That's sort of the rule of thumb, and that's what we'll work towards. Most likely be an all-electric building, there'll be some, systems, there'll be a lot of diversity, there's a lot of strategies that we'll employ to make sure this thing is in fact net zero. A lot of people try to hit net zero. We're one of the firms that not only tries, but we actually succeed in hitting net zero, which is very nice.
And if they're net zero already, could you help with future bringing in the solar or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's lots of options for solar. The firms that will, put them in and then rent them back from you. There's also purchasing them yourself. I believe that RIDE will participate in solar panel purchase, so that's certainly an option. And if you're getting 50% reimbursement, the numbers work out really well in your favor.
Thank you.
Yep.
Should we ask for a budget, a base budget plus the net zero budget?
So 2 budgets.
Yeah, so what we're looking for,
Or at
Joe,
least
is
an additional number.
what
for the
percentage,
net
yeah,
zero.
what the percentage would be from a base building to a net zero building. So we can make a determination whether full net zero fits in our budget or not.
Well, Bob, we'll be able to do that once we get into the design, and we'll bring our team in, and they can show you, a number of factors, including first costs, life cycle costs, and then the building committee can make a decision on each direction. At a minimum, we should be a net zero ready school at a minimum, right? So 5 years from now, whatever, you can come back. But those guys have the expertise and they'll be able to bring that to your attention.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate your
everybody.
efforts.
If there's any questions, Bob, you might bring.
No.
Well, Mike had surgery last time, so
All right.
he's
So,
not
Bob,
able to be
any
here.
questions, just let us know.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your attention. Appreciate it.
Tonight.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna go get some sleep now.
So everybody, this is Kathy from SLAM. I don't know if you want to set up on the table. Yeah, no, the board here, if you want to plug in a computer.
Put a flash drive in, or?
Right, yeah. If you use your computer, it's just as easy.
Hello, everybody. I was told to come as one person, so I came as one person.
I basically said to everybody, it's just, really, just one person needs to be representing here.
Should have turned this on and off. May I ask what constituents you all are, one of my questions?
So this is the building committee?
This is the building committee.
That's correct.
Thank you.
She was just taking her stuff by hand. She go.
I have a brief presentation, so I'll leave plenty of time to your questions. And thank you for sending them in advance, that was very helpful. Just
Okay.
a second to open. I want to make sure nothing else opens up.
I gotcha.
Like my teams and lights don't need to all show up. Well, that's very well.
Oh, no, yeah, no, okay, it's, gonna be late.
Okay. I'm gonna turn this because I forgot my clicker. So I'll have to click the button. Are you ready?
We are.
So thank you very much. I'm Kathy Ellsworth from SLAM Collaborative. We go by SLAM. Don't be afraid to just say SLAM. We're used to it by now. We are very excited to be invited here to see you tonight, or I should say I am very excited to be here. I'm used to having more people with me, so excuse me for the wheeze. We prepared our proposal for you, which I'm sure you've all had at least 24 hours to look at. But I thought maybe I'd take you through just a brief presentation, a little bit more about SLAM and some of the projects we've done, and then I want to leave plenty of time to have a conversation and answer your questions. So let me get going here. So SLAM is a national firm. We have 9 offices. I lead the Providence office. We have 12 people in our Providence office. We have our sister offices of Boston and Connecticut. Connecticut being our home base. We have about 140 architects in Connecticut office. So we have a robust bench behind us. And out of that bench, our Boston office, our Connecticut office, and our Rhode Island office all have education studios where those individuals have dedicated their careers to education, pre-K through higher ed. So that is something that we bring to you and to your community, is that expertise. We're very proud of the fact that we've been nationally ranked this year, 32nd in K-12 education and 19th in higher education. And now I've forgotten the name of the group that ranked us that way, but it is something that we take pride in, and we do, put our credentials in every year so that we can see how we're doing against our peers. That's a picture of our office. We've been there almost 2 years now in Rhode Island, standing in front of we're in the jewelry district of downtown, so we're very happy to have been there. We do, the sustainable piece of our practice is really not a piece, it's integral to us. Every project we do these days has sustainability as one of its main tenets, and we can bring that to your project in a variety of ways depending upon what your community would like to see in fruition. Our team leadership would be myself and Mark Rhodes, who's the other principal in the Rhode Island studio. Mark would be our senior designer, our lead designer. And then
I'm not entirely sure, as I was reading the questions, it sounds like you have someone on board already for doing stage 2.
That's correct.
And so we're happy to partner with that person. I'm gonna make a guess here and say that they're doing programming and planning now, and you want us to do architecture?
Well,
Not
right,
sure
so
yet.
they're doing some portions, they're doing our CIP and that side of things, and we're gonna need to merge in the new middle school for stage 2.
Okay,
When we first started out with this, the middle school wasn't even on the table.
understood.
So we've
Yes.
backed up and changed our path.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. We're happy to partner with you and whatever constituents you have in any way that makes sense for you. You know, it's not unusual for us to be partnered with other people. I'll just give you a quick history of our additional consultants. So we have the full complement of everything under the sun on our list right now of who we would need. Stage 2 is a big deal. You have a lot of work to do in stage 2. It literally will involve every single one of those consultants on the list without fail, all the way down to furniture and equipment, because we need to test those budgets and make sure that the money that's available through RIDE, the budgeting that they give us, is gonna be adequate to fill the building, the new building that you want. So we have indicated also the W and the MBE registered participants that are on our team. We will definitely meet the 10%, we will exceed the 10% requirement in the state for that. So RIDE, you guys probably know RIDE very well these days, as do we. So that's what this is to represent. We have a lot of dialogue back and forth with RIDE over the years, and every year we think of them as a partner. Sometimes they're a little bit more adversarial than a partner could be, but for the most part, you know, their mission is to deliver quality education in your state, and they take that very seriously, and so we take that very seriously as well. They have a lot of talking points these days, everything from a new phrase for them is considering educational commissioning. That would be someone who could come in who's from the education side of things and speak to you about how teachers and other people in your building could use the spaces, because we're delivering spaces lots of times that teachers and administrators aren't used to having, maker spaces, combined auditorium spaces that might not actually be an auditorium, but they might be a black box theater. So sometimes there's some educational component that can help you better live into your new building. One of the things we want to make sure with RIDE is that we meet every single deadline that they have. We go and meet with them before the deadlines happen. We want to have a dialogue with them. It's so advantageous to have them already on our side, so that by the time you're going and you're delivering your SD, your VD, your 60% CD sets to RIDE, they've already seen what you're doing. They know what's coming in over the boards. We've never had a submission rejected by them. We've done a couple of stage 2s really quickly, like this one before. Johnston, for instance, we got hired at about this time, and I will show you a little bit about that in a minute. We had to meet that September deadline. There's a lot to be done, but if you have the proper dialogue with the proper people, you can make your lives much easier. Cost control. These days, costs have been, we'll call them very fluid. They've been very hard to predict. They seem to be settling out, thank goodness. So you guys are actually launching in, I'm hoping at the end of the ocean liner approach that we've been with estimating, where everything's just been going up and up and up. We're starting to see it level off. We can hopefully be a little more predictable in our estimating in such a way that we can make sure we're bringing the most value to your project. Escalation is one of those things that seems to be slowing down in its trajectory. So again, really good point and time for you guys. And the other piece about this slide is that we want to be making those big decisions at the beginning of a project. When us deciding to pick up the auditorium and stick it on the other side of the site because it's better for traffic flow or something like that. We do it early, we make those decisions, we have those conversations with you. That's like easy money, we'll call it. The farther we get in to the project, the harder it is to rectify the dollars that go with making changes. So we would hope to have a really robust conversation with your committee or a subcommittee or however you establish your leadership group that would work with us regularly, because we want to make sure that we've got all of your constituents information coming into us, being vetted by your leadership, and being taken down a path that makes the most sense. A little bit about sustainability. So this is Waterbury Career Academy. It's been open for just about 10 years. It has a geothermal field. It's in Connecticut. It has a geothermal field. It has PV on the roof. It has, I call it all the bells and whistles that you can get these days for being a net zero building. It's not inexpensive. I won't tell you that it's easy to achieve net zero. It is what we're all striving for. It is certainly something that the state is pushing for everyone to be able to achieve, because it does pay off down the road in energy savings, and it's certainly better for our environment. So I bring this to you to represent that we've done this kind of building before. We can take you through that process. We can explain all the different options. You can pick and choose the ones that make the most sense. We could do some probes and find out if the earth, that spot on the earth is really gonna be appropriate for geothermal wells, because not every place is. So there's a lot that can go into a sustainable approach, from super technical to, you know, the less invasive and easier to define. A little bit about our approach to engagement, and I know you're gonna have a referendum coming up, and we would hope to partner with you as you need to go out and meet your community and tell them all the things that are going on. So ways to engage, that can be two different things. It can be at the beginning of this stage 2, where you need to do visioning and get out there with the community and hear voices, hear what they're all talking about at the new middle school. And then it can be when you get to a referendum point and you need to be able to explain what it is that you're putting forth as this new middle school. So, you know, we have any number of ways of engagement, and just some pictures. That's actually Mark, my partner over there, in that one of the night events. Our educational planners will dive into, again, assuming that that's on our plate and not a different consultant's plate, we'll dive into all kinds of metrics and benchmarking and statistical ways of understanding room utilization, so that we're making sure that your spaces are gonna be utilized appropriately, and that where you have a little elbow room, because you might want some other kind of space, we can help you understand whether you can give a little here because you need this other thing over there. And that all has to do with really, really digging in to this programming and planning event. If we don't get this part right, we're in trouble for the rest of the project. So it's really, really important. Educational specifications, again, assuming that's us that'll be doing those, that's what rolls out of, part of what rolls out of the programming is a book that explains everything about the middle school in words, in graphics, and in schedules. So let me switch gears and give you just a little quick taste of what you might expect from us in stage 2. So this was the list. I talked about Johnston, that we had to go over very quickly and capture a lot of information. They had all of those schools listed except the 2 new ones at the bottom. We had to evaluate all of them. They decided that they were going to demo one of their elementary schools, vacate 4 more, renovate their middle school, renovate their high school, build a new elementary school, which we're in design on now, and build a new early childhood center. We're actually in design right now on the high school renovations and the new elementary school. We're almost through PD on those. It was a big undertaking, but with partnership with them, they gave us access to staff over the summer because we had to keep doing our programming over the summer. But in partnership with them, we were able to pull it off. And as an example of the types of graphics that you should expect to see from us in a stage 2, this is an example from the new elementary school. It doesn't look like this anymore. It's changed. It's gotten much more compact in response to our cost estimating these days. But this type of graphics, this nice, crisp, colorful information that you can share out to your community, easy to understand, tells the story that you need it to tell, locates it in its spot in the community. Colored floor plans that explain what the uses of the rooms are, with furniture turned down, again, so that you and your constituents can understand what it is you're delivering to them. And then renderings, again, it doesn't look like this anymore. This was from the stage 2. But this level and this quality of renderings will be produced for a stage 2 and also beyond that. So Groton Middle School, let me talk a little bit about middle schools. Not too far from here, on the water in Groton. Groton decided, they opened this school during the pandemic, but they had decided that they needed a new middle school. They actually had two existing middle schools on two very diversely different socio-economical sides of town, and they would bring them all together, which was a big event for them in a variety of ways. One of the most important things was to make sure that every child there felt like they belonged. And there was a lot of discussion about graphics and colors and words of inclusion that you'll find throughout the whole building. And that had to do with making sure that when these kids came together, that they felt like they all belonged there, and that there was no, there always is some, but they were trying their best to make sure that they were going to give everybody a home. The color scheme, you'll see in a couple of the other pictures, represented, like they're close to the water. So our interior designers were working with the aqua theme. And that giant graphic on the wall at the front, that's when the kids first come in. That's what they see every day, to reinforce that message that the curriculum is bringing forward, that the staff is bringing forward about inclusion, taking those different colors and giving pops of them at different places in the building, again, to reinforce that. This is what the floor plan of the building looks like. So the picture that we saw, I was looking at this front entrance here. They decided not to do an auditorium. Instead, I'm gonna go around this way. Instead, they did a series of 3 spaces that the seating area is actually doubles as a cafeteria, and you'll see that in a minute. There's 2 big, I'll call them accordion doors, but they go up, that open these spaces on, and that 3rd space onto what typically is used during daytime as the cafeteria, because they needed the flexibility, or they wanted the flexibility of having those program spaces, and budget-wise, they couldn't have those in an auditorium. On the upper floors, we designed this so that they could either do house style or team teaching, or there was another one that they had. But the way that the wings worked, they could have, one whole grade on the floor, or they could mix it up. And I don't want to spend too much time on these things. So this is looking into that center cafeteria. Both of those blue walls go up. And when they go up, you can actually see in and see through to, in that case, that one's used as the music space typically during the day, and behind it is the Black Box Theater. We also have a variety of other flexible spaces in that building. This one down here is a maker space. Power and data and things from the ceiling. Room can be reconfigured. They can build robots in there. They can do all kinds of different things in there, which is indicative of the kind of spaces that we're seeing to make middle school successful these days. So kids can transition from those things that they're starting to learn about into the pathways that you have at your high school. Another project we're working on right now is Torrington Middle and High School. It's a brand new building. You'll see a footprint of it in the middle. They're bringing their middle school and their high school together in their own wings, sharing a kitchen and a gymnasium. I'll show you the site. And they're also doing this on an occupied site. So it's a little hard to see, but this light yellow that goes off this way is the existing building. This is the gym that they're keeping, and then they're building this wing, double wing piece here. All new athletic fields similar to what you're doing. Steel is up on this part of the building, this part of the building. Foundations are in over here, and steel is just starting to go put there. So it's been an interesting adventure for them, because the whole rest of that campus is still functioning. Another example closer to home here in Newport. So this is the Rogers High School, if anybody's familiar with that. This sprawling thing is their existing campus. We are consolidating all of that into that green footprint. It's going to be about 165,000 square feet. We have some temporary parking lots and things going on now so that the building can function, because this piece has been taken over by the constructors. That auditorium is now down, and this piece is under construction. So we are used to having to design on and so this is what it's gonna become when it's done. All that existing building, they're changing their mind, I might keep one piece, but most of all existing building's gonna be gone. This was the plan, with a new field, in that location. And this is an aerial view with the fields off to the right-hand side of the massing and the forms of what the new building is going to be. It's about the size, a little bit smaller than the size that you're planning up. You're around 180, they're 165. And then just a final slide before we answer your questions. This is actually a pre-K to 8 school in Connecticut. So it bridges your middle grade students. But just an example, I wanted to give you a flavor of, none of our buildings look the same. They're all about the program, they're all about your community, they're all about the context that they sit in. You're not gonna look through the pages of a booklet full of architectural projects from SLAM and find signature style. And that's really important to us because it should reflect you. It's not about us, it's about us delivering what you need. So thank you for letting me give you that rendition.
Okay, Kathy, I'm gonna ask my
Absolutely.
questions and then we'll go from there. The district has been given a deadline by the town council for a budget estimate or do not exceed number by the 24th of April 2023. Is your firm prepared to meet this deadline?
Yes, I assume that's the site, the building.
That, yeah, total number what we would go to bond for.
Yes.
The district is looking to have a conceptual schematic design as soon as possible, but no later than September 1, 2023, for a tentative school committee meeting on September 5th, 2023, and then a September 15th, 2023 RIDE Stage 2 submission. Is your firm prepared to meet this timeline?
Absolutely.
The district has a deadline of December 31st, 2023 to have this project under contract with a construction manager at risk. Is your firm comfortable with moving forward in this direction?
Yeah, most of our clients are doing that right now. Bonus points.
The district will only move forward with this new middle school project if the bond referendum is approved by voters in the November election. Is your firm comfortable with the fact that this may not go to full design and construction after the November timeframe?
Absolutely understood.
The district will be looking for a cost proposal for the first phase of the project immediately following the school committee approvals, which is tonight. Potentially, this could go forward to them tonight. Is your firm prepared to produce this proposal in a timely manner?
Yes.
The district is under contract with a firm for RIDE Stage 2 submission. Is your firm comfortable with working in conjunction with another firm?
Yes.
So you had brought up,
We'll need to figure out what
Yeah.
they're doing and what we're doing, but yes.
right, and you had brought up the educational side of it. So we do have our educational plan done
Okay.
and completed, but I don't know if it will, it doesn't talk about a new middle school,
Okay.
other than the basic, what we had, layouts and where it could be and ideas and,
Do you know
so
if you need to do your demographics over, or are those?
I don't believe we do, I think those are good, but,
The parameters?
and then the final question, which was not on the list, I apologize, it was added after the fact. What are your firm's commitments to net zero energy goals and whether we can expect the construction to meet these goals? I know you've talked about it.
Yeah, no, so we understand, we fully understand where the communities are trying to get with net zero. So either net zero or net zero ready, which gives you the opportunity to sort of live into net zero. We're finding that we need to be a little careful with, honestly, the power supply. Rhode Island's doing a really good job of beefing that up. But we have, we've found in some instances where we have to bring in a secondary line because the local transformer on one side of town can't give us enough juice to be all electric, for instance. So those are, they're just the things we have to deal with these days, but they're certainly all things that we're well versed in. And we look forward to looking at those kinds of complex issues with you.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the question over to Ralph, he's our town manager, he has some house cleaning questions for you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, the simple house cleaning just because of the tight time frame. So Bob had mentioned the fact that we may go to the school committee this evening, which is April 4th. If that happens, then tomorrow someone will be called, that's April 5th. And that we need a budget number to the town council by April 24th, so that's a span of 25 days.
Yes.
There's a chance that we wouldn't go to the school committee this evening, which would mean that we go to them April 18th. Our next town council meeting is May 8th, so the 25-day time frame then gets reduced to 19 days. Okay, excellent. Did you have adequate time to put together your presentation this evening?
course.
We just need to hear that.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Again, it's, being that you were contacted, you had to give a presentation this evening, we may give a recommendation tonight, you'll have 25 days to put together a budget.
Mhm.
Do you have any concerns with our process so far?
Will you be engaging in OPM? Is that something?
Yes,
you're-
so I'm out right now, RFP for OPM.
Okay. I think that, because you have to go so fast.
Yes.
I think that would be very advantageous to you, and certainly it would actually be advantageous to us because we can say, okay, all those things, you make sure those happen, because we're gonna be busy doing this. We can certainly help you with everything, but the division of labor, I think, will make things flow better for you.
Absolutely, thank you. Because if we do give a recommendation to the school committee this evening, we won't be able to check all your certifications, so we just need to hear from you that you are maintaining all applicable certifications to do this job.
Yes, to do business in the state and all those things, yes.
And we also won't be able to contact any of your references until after the fact. And so if that, we just wouldn't want any surprises, so I just need to hear, and again, it's not a problem if there is, but if there's anything that you would like to share with us about any prior jobs you've had that we may find out a week after hiring the company.
No, I fully expect that whoever you call is gonna be very satisfied. I hope that they have accolades for us for the work that we're doing with them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? I think
I
we're
hope
good.
I hope I was a good enough one-woman show.
Absolutely.
Great job, thank you.
Excellent job.
I was nervous, I'm like, should I bring anybody else? Nope. All right, if I just unplug this, then is it okay?
Yes, yeah.
Everyone on board the machines. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Dr. May I ask how many you're reviewing?
The final one was 4.
Oh, it was 4. Oh, last? And you were all awake, so thank you for staying awake and all the last.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy, I appreciate your time. You know where you're going. Okay, thank you. So I noticed Ralph looking 2 directions, so I'm figuring he was running to the men's room, because he went out and looked both ways, so he was trying to decide which way to run.
Where's the nearest one?
So we'll give him a few minutes and then we'll work us on. Say, all right. I did notice that.
I'm curious, does anyone have any historical knowledge and was here when this high school was built?
That was Scotia.
Yeah, but was anyone around when this high
Oh,
school?
I think Jack was, yeah.
Okay, I'm looking around and going, we're all fairly new around
Yeah.
here, so I was just wondering if anyone had knowledge of how things went here.
Well, there were problems here, because when you bring in the construction person, the construction person they brought in wasn't what a lot of people wanted. Well, what we brought in, I guess, what we brought in, the council picked the construction firm, and
So that goes back out to our RFP for construction.
That's correct. So at this point, what we're talking is this, it's not necessarily, so we're talking about a construction manager at risk. So a construction manager at risk is one of the big players, right? One of these big Gilbanes.
Yeah.
They come in and they just manage all of the construction. They're the general contractor at that point. But because we don't have design up front, we have to be signed by December 31st to get the extra 17.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of learning about CM at risk, let me tell you. But that was the simplest way and the most common way they're doing it in the state right now to get things signed and meet the ride deadlines. And it's very common, as Sakosho said, as everybody said, everybody's doing CM at risk in the state right now because of timelines. Everybody wants that extra percentage, right? Ours, at 35 and 17.5. I mean, 52.5% is a lot of money when you're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars. So
It was good to hear that some of those other firms had worked that way in the past.
yeah, and I'll tell you, they're all pretty impressive. Right? I mean, the last two were very impressive in my opinion. But I'm going to leave it to you now, Ralph, and I don't know how we want to, if you and Frank, how we want to move forward. But
I think all the questions that were asked, I didn't hear anybody say no. Everybody say yes to every question. Everybody say yes to your questions and your concerns. I think if you look at the references, they're all reputable people that you may or may not know. Most of them are superintendents or owners of other projects. When you look at the references, it seems to me like you have a lot of information. My personal opinion, I think you can make a decision. I don't think you would be off base if you made a decision tonight. Again, my concern is giving them enough time to get the job done the right way, with the right number. I was comfortable with all four firms. If you looked at the information, they did a lot of work in Rhode Island, a lot of schools, middle schools, high schools, elementary schools. They all did work in Rhode Island, and most of their references are in Rhode Island. So that's just my opinion at this point. If you're not comfortable, I certainly wouldn't get in the way of having another meeting, but I think to have another meeting, we've got 15 or 20 minutes to at least talk about it.
Well,
Anybody else?
I've got one question. We're gonna make a recommendation potentially this evening. That firm is tasked with providing a not to exceed number, right?
Right.
We don't get to look at that number before it gets approved. Is that correct? Does it have to, does this committee have to approve the number that's being approved?
that I don't know.
So I can help you with that.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think the building committee has to approve the number.
Okay.
I think you have to rely on the experts to have that number not to exceed. The language in the school resolution is not to exceed. And what they'll do is, they'll take the square footage, and there's a RIDE formula, they'll multiply it times the RIDE formula, and they'll come up with a number. So it's not something they're gonna pull out of the air. There's a formula they have to follow for that. And you've heard them say 175,000 square feet, 180,000 square feet. They'll take that and apply it against the RIDE formula, and they'll come up with a projected number.
And they know the cost of knocking down a 34,000 square foot building. I don't remember the exact number, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they know what the clearing of a lot is per acre, and the athletic fields, I think that they're pretty proficient at that because that's what they do.
So Adam, you bring up a good point. The last thing I want to do is throw another curve, but you bring a very good point up. So I agree with Dr. Plata. This building committee's only task is to do what we've done and send a recommendation to the school committee. For the school committee then to accept that recommendation, or they could say no, send it to someone else. But you bring up a very good point. So then they hire company A. They hire company A, and then the company is then tasked to provide a number to the council by April 24th. We have no responsibility for the number, but again, another question I'll have on Friday, I think the school committee does. So, and I mean that in respect to them, so I don't know if they, and there's two of them here, I don't know if they would want company A on April 23rd to give a number that they're not even aware of, because this is their project. So the curve I'm about to throw is that, you know, even if this group does decide to go forward with a group tonight, we still may want to see if we want to go to May 8th. And I say that because that way the school committee, then I think the firm should present their number to the school committee. The school committee then should talk about that, and then they are ready to go to the council on April 24th to give the council a number. I don't think it's fair to the school committee, if they're sitting in the audience on April 24th, are they giving a presentation, and all of a sudden, this is our school, this is what we want, and it's a number not to exceed, and, oh, 220 million, it's like, whoa, what the heck, that's not fair to them. And so I think you bring up a very good point, that even if we do select a firm tonight, I think I'd like to talk to the school committee, the chair, the council president, about maybe doing this in May anyway, because I think they need another bite of the apple. So I think you bring up, that was one of my 3 questions, that's a great question.
Frank, do you have any response to that? You know more about doing this than we do at this point.
Regarding the number,
Pardon?
the projected number?
Yeah.
I think these firms do this all the time. They probably have a projected number in their head right now, and what that would be. I think we all probably got a number in our head, and the number's been floating around out there, like between 120, 130 million. That's based on the square footage and the right formula. And I think you get into the conversation that Ralph's bringing up, is that if they feel that the number is too high, and you can't bond that number for whatever reason on the municipal side, then you can start to cut back on the square footage. You start to cut back on the cafeteria, you start to cut back on the hallway space, the big spaces, and maybe even the classroom space. But you can't even cut back on the classroom space, because RIDE says it's gotta be certain square footage for the classroom.
So that's when we start to value engineer.
Correct. Correct.
That's when net zero kind of falls to the wayside.
So there is an opportunity to cut back on the number if you think the number's too high. You know, they can come forward with all we're doing tonight is selecting a firm based on their qualifications. After that, everything has to be approved, go through the process.
Do you feel comfortable hearing what you've heard this evening, that we should be able to make a decision now? Ralph's a little uncomfortable, and I understand why, but I wanna know what you think. You've done a lot of these.
Yes. I do.
We've done some together.
I do. I'm real comfortable. I think these firms are all credible. We heard a lot of information tonight, and, again, you need to look at the timelines. Ralph mentioned the timelines. It goes from what, X amount of days to X amount of days, based on April 24th versus May 8th, May 8th. And it also gives you more time, once you select the firm, it also gives you more time to have another discussion about, what the building is gonna look like. I'm comfortable personally. I'm not gonna be here, so I don't wanna influence you people. I think you have to make that decision, but personally, I am comfortable. I've sat through, and I'm sure Ralph has sat through, many presentations with the firms that you just heard over the years, and they're all reputable. They're not gonna come in with a big number, because they have to go by a formula. That's where RIDE restricts the number.
Right. I do appreciate what Ralph just brought up, though, about the school committee sitting in the audience not having any idea what this number is, and wham, it's out there. So I do appreciate the fact that you brought up, maybe we wait till May 8th anyway. We can select someone tonight, if that's what the consensus is. I would feel comfortable doing that, but I do like the opportunity to have at least another school committee meeting where we can discuss it, where we can talk about this, and where hopefully they can present that number to us there, to say, just so we have the ability, and no one can say, well, the school committee had no idea what was going on, and we're just throwing this out there. I wanna make sure that we really dot our i's and cross our t's all along the way in order for this bond to pass. And I think that's very important.
Because in reality, you are making the presentation April 24th.
Right.
And so imagine if you get the number an hour or two before. It's gonna make your job difficult then.
So, somebody else that might make.
Go ahead. But good, bad, or indifferent, okay? Let's assume you get a big number at the later date. Now you're really backed up for time,
And something else that.
versus getting a number a lot earlier
Yeah.
and making adjustments. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You also have a breakdown of what they're gonna give us, correct? You have your schematic number, you have like 3 different.
Well, it's phase one, right? So phase one is the starting point of they need to give us this budget. And then it's schematic, conceptual designs by September 15th. We really don't go forward past that until we know if we have the bond money to continue on with design for construction and the rest of the process.
So your numbers aren't gonna be huge at first, that you would be, I guess, approving. They would just increase as the project moves on.
Right, this first portion, you're gonna get the bond number, sorry, Ralph. Say it's 150 million, whatever the number is. That's great, but like Adam said, we're gonna just start out, it could be 600,000, it could be $1 million. I don't know that number, but phase one is not gonna be $150 million. It's gonna be a small chunk of that to get us to September 15th.
Right, but we need them to give us a number for the council to get a question to the general.
Right,
assembly.
so that's the first portion
That's right.
of this, of the proposal they would give us, Adam, right away, is that. They'd give us that number and then start schematic design and conceptual design and all of that.
So let me ask you a question. Go ahead, Adam, please finish. You sure? Please, I wanna hear more.
You might already have the answer.
No, my question's gonna be very, I'm gonna bring it to it's not specific, please.
I don't have a question.
Okay. So then, only for time constraints, and remember that this committee, what we do this evening, we made a decision, it's our responsibility. Each one of us has to stand by that. So you have to be honest and comfortable in doing what I'm about to ask. Is anyone, just raise your hand, is anyone around this table uncomfortable with choosing a firm this evening?
I am not.
Okay, then let's move forward.
I think it's gonna be a difficult decision.
Yeah, but that's what I'm sitting here going,
It's
all
funny,
right.
again, I'm in the minority again, because, I have some concerns, but I tell you, I'm not gonna say who, one company blew me away.
Me too,
Okay,
and I bet you it's the same company.
it could be, it just blew me away, so I was,
Do you wanna go around the room and everybody say who your top pick is?
Sure.
Wait. No, I don't think we can do that. By the process, I think we have to actually rank the different firms, and then I believe that's what.
I mean, we can do that. I mean, you're ranking the firms
I've been writing down some of the information, and you already noticed that the question I ask is more because of how they are gonna function than anything else. I always said that qualification is not the question. My concern is based on what I seen, is how they presented themselves as a team or as a firm. And I can personally, I don't know if you guys wanna do the technicality and all that stuff, but I personally think that if I have to, I would personally think that Perkins Eastman is the firm that actually was more prepared, not only was more prepared, was also pretty much ready to say, this is your schematic. And I think that covers all the points that you have over here.
Right.
As much as I like Rose Architect, I have a concern with their joint venture. It's the first time that they are working together, and I believe that there are gonna be frictions here and there that may bring the project back. So to me, like the Shark Tank, for them, I'm out. It crossed my mind 20,000 times, that thing, and because of that kind of stuff, I don't think that I will vote that firm. Sakosho, I know the firm, and I pretty much, we dealt with them when we did the North Brandon School, and I don't question the only thing I have is that I know that we had issues here. So that brings the Sakosha firm a little bit out of the picture.
Which might not have been the firm, it could have been the
that's why I asked that question.
Not necessarily, but they were in charge too, so. I am aware of SLAM, because when I was in Connecticut, they were our competition with Castle Booze Association in the schools, and they have done a lot of large projects. Perkin Eastman, my only concern will be, but then again, today communication is very easy. They can be on the other side of the wall and they still can communicate. So that's what I'm gonna say. My vote goes for Perkin Eastman, and you can do this any way you guys want.
You wanna just keep going around this way?
Yeah.
Go clockwise?
Transparency, oh, you think we need to
I
assign
don't,
the points?
I'm part of a group, so if.
But I know where you're coming from, you want to make sure we're not opening ourselves up to any kind of liability by not following the RFQ. I respect that, we've gone through these enough.
To a degree, yes.
Would you like to go next?
Myself, I was very impressed with Berkman and Eastman from looking, just because there was 5 of them here and everyone seemed to have a line. That was which I thought I missed last time with the kosher. They had brought in another company afterwards, Goody and Clancy to actually work in the high school after they had already got the job. And then they brought in another firm at the time.
Also from Massachusetts.
Yeah, they were from Massachusetts, but that was the one that impressed me the most, is looking at all 4 of them.
Perkins?
Ironically, I've worked with 3 to 4 companies. The only company I never worked with was Eastman, Perkins Eastman. I walked in thinking Rouse only because they're gonna hit the ground running. They're gonna just make our life so much easier. Perkins Eastman blew me away. Blew me away. So if this were, if this were my company, they would definitely be my choice.
If I may say, even if you look at the presentation, they even have a schedule of all the work
Yeah.
that they.
I just feel bad because Rouse would hit the ground running, make our life easier, but it is what it is.
I'm with you. I mean, look, I thought they were all good. Full disclosure, my wife is very friendly with somebody in the Sakosha family. I've met Mark at a social function years ago. I know he built this school. I was inclined to think that that might be the right way to go. Perkins came in and just blew the doors off this thing. The fact that they had a school designed already, they figured out what they were gonna do with the elementary school. They had a design, basically. It was very rudimentary, but it was terrific. So, I don't really think there's much of a question there. I thought the last lady was also very good, but I was so blown away by the first one, it was almost, by the third, by Perkins, that I think they're the right choice, so. And they were incredibly confident, they knew net zero, they understood what was going on and they led with it, so.
The problem with net zero, that is, it is a very complicated item within the design. And it's very hard to even answer the questions as they've been asked, because there are a lot of components that relate to it. I was almost tempted to ask you that just get rid of that, because people keeps asking questions when we don't even have the whole picture of what net zero means and what it involves. But if it was part of it, it has to be part of it.
No, I agree. Perkins was by far my first choice. Their attention to detail, even in such a truncated manner that they had to put everything together, was just amazing. And they had their roles assigned. They were on with it, and so they were by far my first choice. So, I did appreciate the net zero stuff and how that is like a main pillar of their company. They are already well versed in this, so.
I mean, I have to agree. I also liked, that they have a connection with Tornado, who's working with RIDE to help us, with the whole RIDE.
I was actually surprised he didn't put in, and now I know why he didn't, because he called me, Lewis called me, and I had a phone conversation with him. And I said, why didn't he put in? Now I know why he didn't put in.
Yeah, so, and I did like the schematic as well. I think that they already had a theme, they had an idea, they had a feel, like, that they could, kind of say, are you on board with this theme? And I think even if you weren't, they could come up with something else. They just seem to be very much ready to address, like, the education within the building. So I like that.
I agree, same Perkins Eastman would be my choice.
I must say I am the same, and just to build on it a little bit more, one of the first things they talked about was the neighborhoods, how to associate what sides of the school to, have least disruption on the neighborhoods.
Yeah, same here, Perkins Eastman, not gonna really add too much more, I agree with what everyone's saying.
And I was blown away by them as well. And again, I've worked with Steve at Scotia, and Kyle and I go back even further than that. And you know, Rouse I've been working with here, but they were Perkins Eastman was just incredible. I was impressed. They had that building set on the lot the correct way, for energy consumption. It was just perfect. Like, and I was very, very impressed. And I think they got enough bench to handle this project as fast as we're going.
So before I entertain a motion,
Okay, I have to say one more thing.
Please do.
If everybody could do me a favor.
I know, do we want to fill these out?
If you don't do them now, at least email them all filled out to me. That'll solve Adam, right? All we need to do is be 1 point off from Perkins to everybody else, and we at least have the documentation. Right? Does that cover what you were concerned about?
Do we want to do them?
I mean, it was pretty unique.
I think we're better off not even doing them, because,
you are?
Okay.
well, if we do them now, then the process has failed, so.
Okay, so don't do them, all
Not
right?
fill out the paperwork.
All right.
Okay.
So before I entertain a motion, I just want to cover a couple of quick things. When the school committee gets this, are they going to instruct for a net zero project and not a net zero project, or do you know how they're doing that? Okay.
I don't think we got that far.
We haven't gotten that far.
All right, so at least you know that for tonight.
We're very mindful of the net zero issue. My inclination would be to have some kind of percentage or something starting from net zero ready to fully net zero equipped, so we can have some kind of a scale to understand what, that's my inclination, but I'm one of 5 votes.
Yep, so at least you know that that's an issue tonight.
Yep.
The second issue tonight would be that you also heard that, that should you hire a firm this evening, you know, someone can get back to me tomorrow as to whether tonight you decide to go before the council, or you can tell Greg, on May 8th. That'll give this company time to report to you prior to them reporting to the council. And it seems like something that I was concerned with, and you both said, you know.
I prefer to.
Exactly, so they should report to you,
Yeah.
so
I don't
it
want
sounds
to be
like
surprised by
tonight
it, I don't think anybody else does.
So we're gonna kick this off till May 8th, potentially, if that's you decide. You have to let me know, because we're doing the town with you, we're not gonna do it without you. And then it also helps me, because Greg and I have to call a delegation tomorrow or Thursday and say, we're coming before you on such and such a date. I'll call the speaker, I'll call the Senate President. We need you to pass this enabling legislation, so let us know that. And then based on that, I'm just gonna say 2 quick things. One is, you know, just for the minutes, we asked if anybody around this table had a concern with the process, and nobody raised their hand. And then we went around the table, and it seemed like on our rankings, while we all had ranked from 1 to 4, everybody at Eastman is number 1. And so with that, I'll entertain a motion that I call him Eastman, I'm sorry, that's what I wrote down. What is it,
Perkins Eastman.
Thanks, I wrote Eastman. So I'll entertain a motion that this committee submits the recommendation of Perkins Eastman to the school committee for tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Do we need to move to adjourn?
I need a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, unanimous.
Well, good to, you went down to Carol, that's good, that's an easy one. That's an easy one.